Here's a story on how a few days ago, one of my DIY electronics projects almost got me kicked out of the airport, and even worse. So if you haven't seen it, this is Info Orbs. It's a product I created. It's a little display that sits on your desk and display pretty much anything like the time or stocks or weather or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to a conference across the country that's basically a bunch of nerds showing off their cool projects, and I wanted to bring these along with me to showcase, so I brought two of them. Now here's where the problems started rising. Usually when I pack my bags for a trip, I put all my clothes in the suitcase. Suitcase is literally just clothes, and then anything electronics goes in my backpack carry-on. I've always done it like this. But the problem is these things are like super fragile. They're just a raw PCB. There's a bunch of displays. Like these would be super easy to break if I just kind of like threw them in a backpack. So I had the absolute genius idea of taking these, wrapping them up in a bunch of wires that I need for prototyping them, putting them in my shoes that I was going to be carrying with me, and then wrapping them in a bunch of plastic and paper towels so they're kind of all padded out. I thought it was a great solution. The shoe is kind of rigid and would keep it safe. And then I put my shoes in the suitcase because clothes go in the suitcase. Anyway, go to the airport, put my suitcase in like the x-ray thing. Then I go to the other side of the x-ray thing and I'm like sitting there waiting for my suitcase, and I could see that it's like stopped there. And there's like a lady like staring at the screen. And then she starts like calling people over to also look at it, and they're kind of whispering to each other and glancing at me. So they come over to me with the suitcase and they're like, is there anything in here we need to know about? And of course, like I said, I've always only put clothes in the suitcase, and I forgot to put the orbs in the shoe. So I was like, no, it's literally just clothes, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, it's just clothes. So she starts opening it up, starts digging through it, and I'm still like super confused. And then as soon as she grabs the shoes, I was like, oh no. And then here's the thing, she grabbed the shoe and just like looked at me, and then I realized right away, and I started trying to kind of explain it. But then she like started reaching in the shoe and pulling the thing out, and I started kind of like getting like, I was like doubling back on my words because they're really fragile, and I didn't want her to like crank it out and break it because I need it for the event. So I started being like, oh, actually, can you, like I didn't handle it elegantly because I was just like trying to navigate the situation and tell her like, hey, can you please be careful with it? Also, I'm sorry, I forgot about it, blah, blah. And I realized now that the whole situation just looked sketchy from her end, and you could tell she was getting like really uncomfortable, and she was pulling this thing out and had like a bunch of wires around it and everything, and it was like this weird thing. And even after we got over all that, it was even worse trying to like explain to her what it actually was. Like it seemed even more sketchy. I was like, oh, it's this custom electronics thing I built and it has these displays on it, but it's not a product. Like you can't buy it. I just built it myself, and I'm kind of like, it was just such a nightmare. And you could tell the lady like didn't know how to handle it. And there's like people around her also trying to like figure it out. And you could tell they thought it was something like really sketchy, and I was not handling it well because I didn't want her to break it. And I felt so embarrassed that I forgot it was there. And anyway, it wasn't anything like really bad. After about 5 minutes, I like showed her pictures of it and everything and explained it all. But there's like a solid 2 or 3 minutes where you could tell everybody was kind of like, and it was just a weird situation. Anyway, definitely won't be making that mistake again. And I'm excited to have my orbs in California here now. Catch you guys later.
So Apple's new AI has access to pretty much all of your personal data, but at the same time, it's one of the most secure and private AIs ever built. If you want to learn a lot about Apple's new AI in a really short amount of time, watch this video because I'm going to explain to you exactly how it works and why it's so much more secure than literally any other option. The first thing you need to understand is most of Apple's AI computations happen on device. So when you input some text on your phone and ask the AI to rewrite it, it's not actually sending that data anywhere to be rewritten. It's all happening on your phone or Mac or whatever. In those cases, there's no opportunity for them to even be able to receive the data to train their AIs. Now, they don't even actually use user data to train their AIs. I'll get to that in a second, but just know when everything's running locally, they can't even have access to it because it's on device. Now, there are some AI requests, specifically things with images that the on device just doesn't have the raw computing power to handle. And in those cases, it does get sent out to something called a secure cloud server. There's a lot to explain here, but basically Apple built their own servers and their own operating system that run on these servers. So when you send an AI request out to those servers, it pretty much happens in a bubble. This server only exists temporarily to calculate your data. In fact, they don't even have hard drives on them. The servers are just filled with RAM such that once the data is set and the computation is done, it's not stored. There's a lot more nuance to explain here and how this works. Just know when it does get sent externally to a server, it's not going anywhere else other than to a computer to be calculated, sent right back to your phone, and then everything disappears. Basically what this means is everything that has to do with you, all the personal data that you're using to build your own personal AI is all calculated for all intents and purposes locally and staying on your device. Apple never has access to that data. All the training that they've done on their AI to bring it up to the point where it is has all been done with external data sets. You're not feeding it more information when you're making requests. You're just utilizing their existing data sets. This does have a big downside to where they're not actively training their AI, so it's not getting smarter, and this is where the ChatGPT integration comes in. So if you have a more complex question that does require access to these crazy data sets, you can do that through ChatGPT. And again, this is where things get a little bit more technical, but the way Apple has structured the personal data on the back end is it's super segmented to where ChatGPT will only have access to the exact tidbit of information they need. If it's first name, they'll only be able to see first name. They can't just like look at your entire user profile. It's really cool how they've done it. There's a lot more technicalities to it, but the TLDR is all the personalization side of the the AI is done entirely on device. It's held entirely locally. It's not used to train anything. It's just used to inform the decisions that your personal on-device AI makes. Don't take my word for it. You can dig into all this yourself. Just know that your personal data, as it's used to control your personal AI, is probably far more secure than you ever could imagine. If you guys have any questions on Apple Intelligence in general or how it handles security, let me know in the comments there. But other than that, I'll catch you in the next video.